Welcome back to the best division in football with your boys Authentic and The Beard. The best television show that was not on television or YouTube this past Tuesday. We decided to take the day off for the election and whatnot. Went to go, hit a quick 9 with The Beard and a couple of homies. Had a really good time, man. So needed that well-rested break. I almost went golfing today, too. But we got 4 games coming up this week here, man. So it's going to be definitely interesting to break these ones down. Going to talk about these matchups we had last week as well. But this week, the New York Giants headed to Germany to take on the Carolina Panthers, the struggling Carolina Panthers. But we are the struggling New York Giants, so no guaranteed W's there. The Commanders are going to be welcoming the Pittsburgh Steelers to Northwest Field this week. And the Cowboys taking upon the Philadelphia Eagles, which would have been a really good game, you would have thought at the beginning of the season. But with all these injuries, especially with Dak Prescott, that's going to be an interesting one. Trade deadline came and went. New York Giants didn't make any moves. Commanders traded for Marshawn Lattimore. Cowboys traded for Jonathan Mingo. That one was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Eagles didn't really make any moves because they didn't have to make any moves. So let's get right to it, y'all. We know we got a game tonight between the Bengals and the Ravens. That's going to be a really interesting one. A lot of stuff to talk about today. Let's bring in the best co-host in the country, my brother from another mother, the left side to the strong side duo. I'm going to let you in the building one time. What's going on, Beard? How you living, man?
I am living good.
I like to hear that, man. I like
living
that.
Good. Spirits are high. I saw Kevin asked me to come in with a superhero landing, and in my mind, I was thinking, what are like Superman, like super hero stances? Like Superman is like this, right?
Yeah, the stance is the hands on the hips.
On the hips. I'm good at that,
Cape flapping in the wind.
You know I'm good at the hands on the hips.
Yeah, you like to keep them right here a little bit, like you got 2 cookies right there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's normally your vibes. You know what I noticed is on the intro, Saquon Barkley is trying to attempt to like jump over somebody, and he ends up getting tackled. What were your thoughts on the Saquon Barkley run this past week against the Jaguars, where he looked like a combine type of run almost, displaying everything he could possibly do?
I thought to myself, that might be the one thing athletically I probably just can't do. And I don't think
the one thing you said, huh?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's the one thing I don't think I'd be able to do. I don't know. I don't even know, like I thought about it for a second, right? I was like, can I jump backwards? Like, when was the last time I jumped backwards?
I haven't seen you jump in 4 or 5 years, man. What are we talking about backwards here, bro?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know. That is something that no matter, you can never watch football and see that and be like, holy crap.
I've never seen that in my entire life. Never seen a running back running for one where he was in a position where his back was to the defense like that to then have to hurdle. And no problem. He just it was like an ice skating move. I told you on Twitter, look, he was doing a backside heel flip.
But Devin Singletary probably could do that, right?
No shade towards Devin Singletary, man. Listen, all right, I liked how you set me up for the alley-oop, but I passed on it. Okay, ball went out of bounds. All right, but I did like the performance by the Eagles, man. I thought they played a really good game. They allowed the Jaguars to get back in that game, but I thought they, in the first half, took care of business. The Devonta Smith catch, just Jalen Hurts is just striding right now, man.
Yeah,
he's playing some really good football.
He is in full cruise control. The only thing that's gonna speed bump that ride is Nick Sirianni, because that guy he's lost it. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Okay, yeah, he's crazy.
You're speaking upon the situational football.
Yes,
I take it, right?
Situational football. Yeah.
Doesn't matter when you win, though, right?
No, until you don't.
Until you don't. And we did see that happen last year. Now, real briefly, too, what are your thoughts about the Commanders, putting a bit of a good whooping on my New York Giants? I know the scoreboard didn't indicate that with, 27-22, but you guys did kneel the ball on the 1-yard line. What was your thoughts on that whole game?
I just, it was good. It was a good game. This is the thing, is that Washington, there's no doubt, I think, right now at this point in the game, that Washington has the most effective, efficient offense in the NFL.
Oh, I wouldn't give you that.
I think Ravens. That there's better offenses.
Yeah,
but
I'm going Ravens.
Ravens, maybe Lions. But efficiency.
Absolutely, the Lions.
Yeah,
Lions aren't even.
though,
They have more touchdowns than incompletions in the past 5 weeks, which is
The thing is that Washington, when they have the opportunity, that and I'm going to give you some numbers at some point tonight, that'll kind of make you understand where I'm coming from with that. It's just there's a level of which that they're playing at that's just mind blowing. I thought that there was obviously some stuff that went down that I think that is going to leave a sour taste once again in Washington's mouth, and it's kind of like happened at a good point because of the opponent that we have coming up this week. So outside of that, I thought, the running back stepped up, running back by committee sort of thing. Chris Rodriguez had a fantastic last drive. There's times when I'm watching these games without Brian Robinson where I get so nervous not having Brian Robinson in the game. And they did a good job without him. And it's just a lot of that is credit to Cliff Kingsbury, and the design runs that he's doing, all the pulling action. I saw Dan Orlovsky actually talking about that. There was a clip going around where he shows all of these the pulls that Washington's doing on these design runs that's just making things open up. So I thought that was good. The offensive line was just lights out. They didn't allow, any sacks to the sack leading team in the country. So
I told you that's a little fugazi.
It is a little, but
you get
still.
7 and 8 and one in each game and whatnot. It's just I think the Giants have a good front, and they are better at getting after the quarterback than they are at stopping the run. That's been a big issue, which I think a lot of rational New York Giants fans kind of figured this is what it was going to be. Bringing in 2-speed edge rushers, we're going to struggle to stop the run again, and it's been even worse than I think we all could have imagined. I thought your offense didn't really move the way that I thought they were going to move the ball against the Giants, though. The first half touchdown at the end of the first half, I thought that was the difference in the game, to be honest. If the Giants would have had their touchdown not called back on that penalty on the pass interference, you're looking at a bit of a more closer game, but that's not my style to, look back at plays and go,
we
if
only
that
punted
went this
the ball
way.
Once, right? Once or twice?
Yeah, just one time, I believe it was.
But the drives were also limited in that game. You know, both teams only had 4 possessions in the first half.
Yeah, you guys you guys ran the ball all over us, and it was disheartening. And we did our best to, give everybody one more week to think that Daniel Jones might be better than he actually is, like we normally do. So
yeah, and I know, statistic-wise, a lot of people left this game with the team let Daniel Jones down, but I don't really feel like that. He had his highest passer rating of the year. He had his highest completion percentage of the year. He was efficient, I'll say. And I think that the first half numbers is really what makes people go, it looked like a shitty game in the beginning. I mean, you have 0 passing yards in the first half, but then extremely efficient in the second half, but accounted for 3 touchdowns. When I looked at the 2 quarterbacks in this game, I thought Jaden Daniels was just head and shoulders above what Daniel Jones had to do in that game. And you saw 2 polar opposite type of play styles. You saw Daniel Jones, especially in the second half, almost playing as hard as he possibly could. And then you see Jaden Daniels in the second half smiling, laughing on the sidelines, dapping up players, looking at Malik Neighbors run backwards, laughing at him, and just Washington really having a grand old time. I thought you guys were never really tested in that game. And had you been tested, I think then the offense would have had to ramp it up, and they probably would have done that. But just a really conservative, chill type game. Both teams relied on the run, I felt like, in the first half, but kind of went the way I guess we both thought. What were our score predictions on this game, if you have it in your notebook?
I do have them in my notebook.
I'm curious to see what that was.
I do not have them in my notebook. I apologize for that. I have Philadelphia and Jacksonville, Houston and the Jets, Dallas and Atlanta.
Yeah, no score on that one.
No New York Giants and Washington.
I remember what it was, because I remember saying something like the game would be a little bit closer than people thought it would be.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, but I don't remember the score. I don't think I had it a 5-point. I thought I had it maybe like a 9-point win or something like that for
y'all.
y'all.
I think we were both 2-score win, 2 possession
victory
separation.
for the Commanders.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. Well, let's get off into this week, man. I'm looking forward to this. I really wish that this first matchup was some better timing, because this could have been like the game of the year, I feel like, for the NFC East. Instead, we're going to have to probably wait until the Commanders get a chance to see the Eagles. But the Cowboys are going to be welcoming the Philadelphia Eagles to Jerry World. This should be a really good one. Let's get into it. All right, man. Eagles sitting at 6-2, Dallas Cowboys at 3-5, which is kind of interesting. Like, not truly out of it if they could possibly get a run out of Cooper Rush, how they did in 2020, where I believe he went 4-1 in the 5 starts that he played him without Dak Prescott. The Eagles are favored in this one by 7.5. I see you got 7 there, so that must have got corrected. The over-under is 42.5. Kickoff Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last week, Eagles beat the Jaguars 28-23. The Cowboys lost to the Falcons. You picked that game right. I picked that game wrong. I thought it would be pretty close. I think that the Falcons' defense is a lot worse than I imagined, but also the Dallas Cowboys' offense, and even with the injuries to CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott in that game, their offense is just not moving how they want to. And they did get a decent running game out of Rico Dowdle in that game, too, and still really couldn't come away with nothing. Last meeting, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Philadelphia Eagles. That was just last year, and they beat the brakes off of them, 33-13. Cowboys have won 5 of the last 7 games versus Philly, scoring over 30 points in 4 of the last 5 wins, which that might not happen this go-round. Cowboys have won 6 straight at home versus the Philadelphia Eagles, which was the story for a lot of the teams in the NFC East going up against Dallas Cowboys when they had that longest active streak. But the 6 straight wins against Philly is the second longest active streak against any team for the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, number 1 is going to be my New York Giants. They have 7 straight wins against the Giants. We're going to try to break that later in the year. Cowboys are on their first 3-game losing streak dating all the way back to 2020. So this has been a really efficient team, especially during the regular season. We've seen them win 3 years in a row, have a record of 12 wins or more. So they've been doing what they've had to do. The Eagles have won 4 games in a row now, and they're one of 4 teams with a 4-game winning streak in every season since 2021. You know who was hired in 2021? Nick Sirianni.
Oh,
that's who was hired in 2021.
Oh, yeah. You saved that one for me.
That's why I saved that one. I got another one I saved for you as well, too. Eagles right now are the only NFL team that ranks in the top 6 in total offense and total defense. That top 6 is very convenient. They have the 6th ranked offense, but their defense is ranked 3rd right now in the National Football League. Dallas Goedert got back to practice this week. He missed 3 games with the hamstring. It'd be real nice to get him in the mix. It's kind of crazy that they've gone on this 4-game winning streak without Dallas Goedert in the mix. It was nice to see Jahan Dotson make a play that we know he is capable of making last week.
Great
and I know he didn't have a lot on the box score, but the catch, man, I honestly think that might be the 2nd best catch of the year. And there have been some really nice ones. You had the Garrett Wilson, Michael Jordan catch. And then who was it that made a catch just like that? I feel like a week before someone had a real nice catch too. I don't remember who it was, but someone had the catch of the year. And then Garrett Wilson had that one that I was comparing to Beckham and whatnot. But I like seeing that from Jahan Dotson because he's a first-round talent, and I don't like when players get written off like that. It reminds me of like how some of the Giants fans are talking about Jalen Hyatt. They're like, well, maybe he's just garbage. And it's like, nah, dude clearly has talent. And I think Jahan has talent. It was good to see him make a play. But the story of the Philadelphia Eagles is Saquon Barkley, man. He's been the guy. He's never had more than 1 touchdown in a game versus the Dallas Cowboys. And I have a feeling that that's going to happen this year with that defense taking a major step back the way that they have, not only from a personnel standpoint, not only from an injury standpoint, but I think the most detrimental one is Dan Quinn going to Washington to be the head coach. You know, you bring in Mike Zimmer over there, you expect some similar OG results, and they're just not getting them. But Saquon also has never beat the Cowboys. His whole tenure with the New York Giants, they never beat the Cowboys. He's 0-10 against the Dallas Cowboys. And I just want to say this, for the entire New York Giants fan base out there. I don't give a fuck what they telling you on Twitter and what they're saying. If they calling him Snakequan, we miss you, bud. We definitely miss you, okay? Saquon has 925 rushing yards in 8 games already this season. You can't forget a lot of teams have already played 9 games. He's already over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. He's averaging 116 yards per game on the ground. He's coming off 3 straight 100-yard games. He's got 5 on the season already. In 8 games, he's averaging over 7 yards per carry over the last 3 games. Saquon has just 1 game all year under 80 yards rushing. Like, this dude is revitalized, and I think he's running with a chip on his shoulder. This reminds me of when he came into the 2022 season, and he was like, all right, I hear y'all talking. I hear Giants fans saying I'm washed and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Stay on that side. I think this is that same type of approach that he has had this year. 199 yards from scrimmage last week versus the Jaguars, which was a season high for him. Saquon is just doing it on the ground right now. And to top that off, the Dallas Cowboys have the 30th ranked rush defense in the entire National Football League. I expect that to be some fun times for Saquon going up against this Dallas Cowboys defense. And he's healthy this year, and I think with Jalen Hurts being healthy as well, both those guys are really front running that offense. But I do want to talk about the coaches and the quarterbacks just a little bit before I kick this over to you. So Mike McCarthy right now, as you have been calling for his job, I want to say for the past 2 seasons, I'll say like, hey, maybe next week. He's in the last year of his contract right now. So, barring a miracle from the Dallas Cowboys, it's looking like they're probably going to part ways from Mike McCarthy this year because what he has on the resume for this final season is not really looking all that great. Jerry Jones and them was talking about how Dak Prescott, his hamstrings hanging off the bone. I ain't even never heard no statement like that, but it's not looking like Dak is going to be playing anytime soon, likely headed towards IR. I heard he was going for it.
I think he is on IR now.
They put him on already. I know last I heard he was going to get like a second opinion or something like that. But it was, it's inevitable that he wasn't going to be playing for the next 4 weeks anyway. Likely going to be out for the rest of the year. But Dak wasn't playing that good before that, right? Like 8 interceptions, 11 touchdowns. First Cowboys quarterback to have multiple interceptions in 3 straight games since 1992. And that was Troy Aikman that did it. Another, pretty good quarterback as well. I'll say a great quarterback. I didn't want to say another great quarterback. People might take that the wrong way. But 2 good quarterbacks, at least 1 great quarterback. And the Cowboys are just struggling right now. 3-5 just not sitting well. Now, opposite end of the spectrum, people kind of wrote off Jalen Hurts after the first 3 games, had the turnovers kind of, ramping up a little bit, but he's been playing some outstanding football. 0 turnovers in the last 4 games.
Huge.
I don't think that there's another quarterback in the league that maybe has those numbers outside of the guy who's featured in the Thursday night football game, possibly. He's coming off 3 total touchdowns. Say it again.
Jaden Daniels, too.
Jaden Daniels hasn't turned the ball over in 3 straight games or 4 straight games?
I believe so.
I don't think so. I don't think. Look it up while I'm ranting here, but I don't think so. I remember interception somewhere across the middle there. Check them game logs for me. But Jaden Daniels coming off 3 total touchdowns last week versus Jacksonville Jaguars. He's got 12 total touchdowns, 0 interceptions in that stretch of 4 games. Passer rating of 119 or above in all 4 games. 18 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year, a 69.8 completion percentage as well on the year. And I just like that he looks healthy. Now, Jaden Daniels might be a guy that has not turned the ball over in the last 4 games. Has not, but I guarantee you he's not somebody who's done this. Because Jalen Hurts is the first player ever with a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a passer rating of over 115 in 3 consecutive games in the history of the NFL. That has never happened. Now, Nick Sirianni, this is the guy I wanted to talk about. People have extremely mixed opinions and more opinions about Nick Sirianni that scream negative about him. The in-game decisions, the aggressiveness that he has had on 4th down, on the goal line with the tush-push, sometimes not working, sometimes working. Nick Sirianni has the highest winning percentage of any Eagles head coach in the history of that franchise. Is damn near a 70% winning percentage. The Eagles have started 6-2 or better in 3 consecutive years for the first time since 1979. I say this all the time, and I won't make an exception for it. Winning solves everything. So whether or not you have a few blunders, a few lapses, mental lapses, right, that may cause your team to be put in a position where it seems like they might not win a game, it seems that outside of the last 5 to 6 games in the 2023 season, all Nick Sirianni has been doing is winning games. I talked about the guy that's playing on Thursday night being Lamar Jackson. People had scrutiny for Lamar Jackson, right? The completion percentage, the passing yards, he's never been over 4,000. He's a running back, as some people would like to say, when the game is on the line, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson just wins games, right? Yeah. He only has 1 loss against the NFC in his entire career, and it just so happens that it came up against Daniel Jones. But I think this when I'm thinking about Nick Sirianni. I know a lot of people think, and I'm not even looking at the chat right now, but I guarantee you somebody's like, man, he's got a face I want to punch, or Nick Sirianni's an asshole.
That's a giant fan line right there.
Yeah, most definitely. But I will say this about him. I think that he's a good leader of men. I think that he's the kind of guy that his players are going to go out there and they're going to die on their swords and shields for him because he puts it all out on the line almost like a player does. This dude was literally in this, speaking of people in the stands that were Philadelphia Eagles fans copping for his team. I don't think it's the traditional way that most people like it, but I got to give Sirianni his props today. The Eagles were pretty much written off after 3 to 4 games. They've now clawed and battled back after that bye to me, of all the teams in the NFL that have had a bye thus far this season, the Eagles have came off that bye and been the different team like I have not seen from any team this year. And I mean, they're going up against Cooper Rush. I got some more I want to talk about, but I do want to see how you feel about this game and all these situations. I think the Eagles are going to trounce the Dallas Cowboys in this game.
I believe that's going to be the case as well. I mean, it's just Dallas is they're a mess right now. There are two teams going in opposite directions. It's as simple as that. You know, like the Jalen Hurts 0 turnover thing is just huge for him because I feel like that's always been the only downside to Jalen Hurts' game. Like he can make all the throws.
But he's not a guy known for turning the ball over.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part about it.
And I've always, you know me, been a big Jalen Hurts guy, but I feel like there's nothing really else that you can say about him, about his game within the last, year and a half, I guess you would say.
For me, it wouldn't be turning the ball over because he don't do that. For me, it would be arm strength and down the field stuff. That's really what it would be.
But I feel like
being a pocket passer, that thing.
Yeah, but I feel like he's underrated in my opinion at that aspect. I mean, you've seen some of the deep balls he's thrown over the last couple of weeks.
He throws the best fade ball maybe in the entire National Football League.
I mean,
I just think playing the quarterback from the pocket down the field deep, I'm like he can throw the 30-yard, 40-yard, but it's that Anthony Richardson bomb. Yeah, that's where he ain't got it.
I understand that. I mean,
but I wouldn't nitpick that. I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna nitpick something, it wouldn't be the turnovers for me because that stretch he had at the beginning of the year and at the end of 2023 is really the only time we've ever seen that dude turn the ball over.
Yeah, and that was that. You know how when people have a fixation on hating on somebody, right? Stuff like that gets magnified. And I think a lot of Nick Sirianni, too, gets magnified because he's in Philadelphia, because of that Philadelphia sports market as in general, So it's kind of tough. But in this situation, in this game, Dallas, you talked about their rush defense. They're giving up 147.8 on the ground. Philly's second best in the league at rushing, 174.8. Dallas's pass offense, which now this is what I'm curious to see. Are we going to see Dallas? Sometimes you get these backup quarterbacks that come in and it goes a little crazy for like a game or two. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And in Cooper Rush's instance, it was pretty good stretch because I remember I wrote off the Cowboys. I was like, oh, it's over for them. Here comes Cooper Rush. And so Dallas's passing offense, they're averaging 254.1 yards per game. It's second most passing yards in the league. Philly's pass defense, which early on was looking like it was going to be an issue, they're allowing the second fewest passing yards per game at 174.8. So that's an interesting matchup right there. I thought that, Daboll looked a little bit better last week, but Dallas still cannot run the ball for shit. They're the second worst in the league, 82 yards per game. Baltimore Ravens, just for a comparison in the difference, they're almost averaging 200 rushing yards per game.
Yeah, so that's what a rushing quarterback will do for you.
Yeah, and obviously having the number one running back in yards per game also. Philadelphia is fifth best against the run, 101.1. So there's no real leadway there for Dallas. Dallas has allowed the second most rushing touchdowns in the league this year. So you talked about Saquon Barkley. I think this is definitely going to be a game where it's going to be like the Giants-Eagles game where he's going to have some points to prove here. Philadelphia also has the second most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. A lot of that has to do with Jalen Hurts, obviously, as well. 14 rushing touchdowns on the year. Dallas has the worst red zone defense in the league, 76.9% red zone defense. So, I mean, basically people once you get down there, it's almost a guarantee to score. The one thing that Dallas has been doing well defensively is third down, which could be huge for them. If they want any shot at this game, that has to be their, bread and butter of staying in this game is that third down defense. It's the 12th best third down defense in the league, 35.4%. So not necessarily top 5 or anything like that, but that's a really good number as far as, your conversion percentage rate. And then the other thing that's going to be difficult for Dallas, though, is they have the third worst defensive scoring percentage, 47.1%. So teams are scoring on 47.1% of the time when they get the ball against Dallas, which it's difficult to win games like that, no matter how good your offense is.
That's an interesting stat.
Yeah.
So almost half the time they're scoring at least a field goal.
Yep. So it's tough. I don't see a way for Dallas to win this game. Even with Dak Prescott at quarterback, is it weird that maybe Cooper Rush gives them a spark to think that maybe they have a shot? But I don't see a way defensively, offensively. They had CeeDee Lamb. They don't have anything else. Like they're in a situation where it's like they don't have any blue chippers. And Micah Parsons might be back in this game. But I mean, if you put these two teams, you line them up against on the field, it's tough. It's
interesting when you talk about the blue chippers because like Washington manages to move the ball with less blue chippers almost than the Dallas Cowboys have on offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's
kind of wild.
You have two blue chippers. I think we can say Terry McLaurin's a blue chipper, right?
It's weird. Like you guys are blowing teams out, and the dude will have like 2 catches for like 20 yards, or he'll have like 4 for 100.
Yeah. It's
right.
I mean, he had 2 touchdowns against you guys, but he had like
17 yards.
Yeah.
Like I look at Brian Robinson, he's not a blue chipper, but he's a difference maker. And the Cowboys lack that. I feel like they don't have that guy because I would take Jake Ferguson over Zach Ertz right now.
Yeah. Jake Ferguson played well last week too.
He did, and it's still not enough. And I would take Jalen Tolbert at wide receiver 2 as well. I would take their whole offense over your offense outside of quarterback. That's the crazy part about it. But realistically, I think with the Dallas Cowboys, what has really been the big problem, their injuries and the regression of their defense. Yeah. When they did go on that run with Cooper Rush, they had a good defense back then too.
Yep.
So you're not going to have that, being able to rely on the defense. Now, I do have their injuries here, and it's a lot, man. Deron Bland, IR. CeeDee Lamb dealing with the sprained shoulder coming into this game. He had the sprained shoulder last week. Brandon Cooks on IR. People forgot about Brandon Cooks. Yeah. DeMarcus Lawrence on IR. Trayvon Diggs missed games. Micah Parsons, ankle injury, has had him out now for 3 games, going on 4 games.
3 or 4, yeah.
Marshawn Nealon, IR. Eric Kendricks, who they got from the Minnesota Vikings, solid linebacker. Dude's missed multiple games. Offensive guard Chuma Edoga, IR. Like, it's hard to win games like that, and they already didn't have the roster already. And then you regress from a defensive coordinator standpoint. I think it makes it really tough. Cooper Rush, I mean, I feel you on, maybe you get a spark from a different quarterback. Where Cooper Rush was winning and what he was doing well when he came in during that last time when Dak Prescott had the broken leg and whatnot was he was getting rid of the ball quickly. And I think that could be a recipe for at least sticking and staying in this game. But the Eagles are just too well-rounded. I saw Kevin the PRF brought up something really good, too. He's like, how come the Eagles don't get as much flack as the Commanders do for winning, during this stretch against a bunch of easier competition? It's the Giants, the Bengals, the Browns, I think, and the Jaguars. So those aren't really good teams, and I get it. I think the difference is that we haven't seen the Washington Commanders do it. And we're looking at a new team that wasn't expected to do it, whereas the Philadelphia Eagles are kind of like, all right, you guys got the roster to beat these teams. You're favorites. You should win these games, and they have been going out there and winning them. But their defense, I think, has really came around. You made a good point about how the secondary started off slow this year. But then, when they really started to play these 2 rookies, I want to say it was Darius Slay that got the injury that allowed Cooper DeJean to come in and get some more reps. And he looks great. He looks like even better than what we're getting out of Andrew Phillips.
He's getting
and then he returns kicks. That's my kind of dude right there. Eagles defense has 3 takeaways or had 3 takeaways last week. First time this season that they've had a game with 3 takeaways. I look for more of that with Cooper Rush at the quarterback position. I think if the Eagles are a serious team and a serious contender this year, this game should be a blowout. I'm going to take the Eagles in this one 31-16.
You might not be able to see it, but yeah, I got 31-15.
31-15. I like it, man. I like it. All right, well, let's get off into this next matchup. I see the Cowboys gang is in the building. Big shout out to all of y'all, man. I see Gregory out here representing. I see Kai. Kai says Cowboys ain't got no chance. I'm kind of in agreement with you there one time, man. All right, let's get off into this next matchup, man. The New York Giants, the Carolina Panthers, traveling to Germany to play a game that is considered a Panthers home game, but a pretty neutral field here.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
Beard, I'm least excited about our games. Like when I get to the Giants game, I'm like, all right, here we fucking go, man. Giants sitting at 2-7. I've gave up on my fantasy team. I didn't even check my fantasy lineup last week. They 2-7 as well. I didn't start no defense, no kicker, no nothing. Ended up losing by like 10.
Don't be one of those guys.
I know, man. But it is what it is, man. I've been loafing. Kickoff is at 9:30 a.m. for this one here in Germany. Giants favored by 6.5. I don't know about that right there. Over-under is 40.5 in this one here. Last week, the Giants lost to the Commanders 27-22. The Panthers actually beat the New Orleans Saints, who have lost 7 straight games. They beat them 23-22.
Got their coach fired. Giants.
That's in the notes here, too. Yeah, that's in the notes here for sure. Last meeting, the Giants did beat the Panthers 19-16. That was in 2022 at MetLife Stadium. The Giants have won the past 2 matchups between these two teams, and this is going to be a revenge game for Brian Burns. And this is going to be the battle of the 2 worst GMs in the league. I'm sort of joking, but sort of not. But Dan Morgan, Joe Shane. Speaking of Dan Morgan and Joe Shane, let's get to that super chat, man. Bring up that super chat. It's a perfect time to do that.
We're going to bring
now.
that super chat up. Big shout out to Formula Red for the 9.99 super chat. Says, I'm torn on Shane. He's had some nice moves, but a lot of misses. Barkley, Banks, Neal, McKinney, draft picks already cut. Can even throw Tibbs in there. And the biggest knock, re-signing Daniel Jones.
Yep. Right there with you, Formula Red. I wanted to make sure we didn't get too far off down this segment before we didn't get to highlight that super chat, man. I'm in total agreement with you on this. I'm not one that's necessarily calling for Joe Shane to be fired right now, but there's been a lot of misses. And I'm going to talk about this here during this matchup, but just the philosophy of how the New York Giants have been operating the past 2 to 3 seasons is definitely a red flag with how Joe Shane has been operating. And we're going to talk about that. I appreciate you supporting the channel, my dog. So, battle of the worst 2 GMs, possibly. Kind of joking, maybe not. Battle for the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Possibly
There's a lot of
joking,
bad teams in the NFL.
Possibly
right
not. Okay. Looks like Darius Slayton is not going to travel with the team, dealing with the concussion on this one. This will be the Giants' 4th trip to Europe and 1st to Germany for a regular season game. The Giants have won all 3 of their games in London. And the way this one looks, it looks like they're probably going to get a victory here going up against the Panthers. But they won in 2007. They won in 2016. They won in 2022. They made the playoffs every one of those years, which is just the most randomest stat ever. And we know we're not making the playoffs this year, so maybe the Beard could be right here about not beating the Panthers here. I'm going to see if you got the guts to actually pick the Panthers when we get there. The Giants and the Panthers are 2 of the 9 teams, because these 2 teams have the worst record in the NFL. They're 2 of the 9 teams that have a record of 2-6 or 2-7 right now. That's the highest number of 2-win teams at this point in the season since 2006. So we're pushing 20 years almost here now. Giants coming into this one have lost 4 straight games. They're 0-5 at home. Thank God that this game is not at MetLife. That is very, very positive news for us. That's a big old yay for the New York Giants right there, right? All right. Now, Daniel Jones is coming off a 3 total touchdown game versus Washington last week. Talked about it a little bit. Passer rating of 119.7. Completion percentage was pretty much 77%, both his best this year. 7 rushes for 54 yards. Panthers have the worst defense, not rush, pass, scoring, not just the worst defense in the NFL. Panthers have just 10 quarterback sacks on the season. That's 2nd worst in the NFL right now. So I'd expect Daniel Jones to have a lot of time. Now, speaking on what Formula Red was talking about Joe Shane. Yesterday, I tweeted out, how many teams outside of the New York Giants have their first 5 draft picks in the starting lineup right now? No, I had a bunch of people pushing back, giving me flack about it, all this shit, right? But nobody actually could name a team that has their picks from rounds 1 through 5 of the 2024 draft being starters right now in the lineup for the New York Giants. And it's something I overlooked. Like, Shane basically replaced, because we didn't draft for best player available, we drafted for need. So he pretty much replaced players that he lost on the roster with people in the draft. And I pointed this out in that tweet. Sterling Shepard went on to play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He playing pretty good this year. Look good. Replaced him with Malik Neighbors, I guess you could say. Xavier McKinney was replaced with Tyler Nubin. Darnay Holmes in the slot was replaced with Andrew Phillips. Darren Waller with Theo Johnson. And Saquon Barkley with Tyrone Tracy. And I think that all these rookies have been playing fairly well. Big props to all of them, right? But for me, Good teams do not draft and rely on that many players coming in to be starters, and that's what I'm talking about, what I overlooked. Knowing that we lost team captain Xavier McKinney on the defensive side of the ball, knowing that we lost a team captain in Saquon Barkley on the offensive side of the ball, and now you're replacing these guys with players that aren't but, in Tyrone Tracy's case, 24 years old, everybody else beneath that. So you expected these youthful guys to come in. Again, how many times have I talked about Joe Shane banking on youth and it not working? The main comparison that I had made was with the offensive line. You paid Daniel Jones $92 million guaranteed, $160 million contract, but you don't address nothing on that offensive line. You literally expect guys like Evan Neal, Marcus McKeithen, and others that you drafted to kind of take this step up and protect your $160 million investment, which was a mistake. Now, this year, he went out there and band-aided up the offensive line with a bunch of veterans, but then all the other skill positions that you really need true ballers and leaders in, he expected guys that were just coming into the league to be able to make that transition fast enough that the New York Giants would be competitors. He said it on Hard Knocks. We're gonna put a weapon around Daniel Jones. We're gonna bolster up this offensive line, and we're gonna see what we got in our quarterback. When you say that, we're not thinking rebuild. We're thinking compete and go for a chip, right? Now, I think in this matchup, it's important that Tyrone Tracy is going to have to get the ball in this matchup. I think the success of the running game last week helped out Daniel Jones to be able to play a more efficient game, although he did have the fumble on the screen route that was really the biggest mistake by both teams in that entire game, and I think it really cost the New York Giants the game early. I think they're going to have to rely on Tyrone Tracy. Panthers have the worst rush defense in the entire league. Tyrone Tracy right now has more total yards than Malik Neighbors does from scrimmage. He's got 558 scrimmage yards. Wow. It's fourth in the NFL. 442 rushing, 116 receiving. Malik Neighbors, who he has played 2 fewer games than Tyrone Tracy, is still right behind him. He's just 1 yard behind him. So it's not as much of a wow as we would expect, but it's impressive by a guy who really was not getting the bulk of the carries for the first couple of weeks for the New York Giants. Neighbors right now is averaging 7.9 catches a game. It's the most in NFL history by a rookie with at least 5 games played. So if he can maintain, I believe the number was 8.9, he'll break that record for an entire season. The Giants right now, and this stat it speaks volumes to the quarterback and the type of quarterback Daniel Jones is. The Giants are the only team right now that have 2 players with 50 or more receptions on the season. Malik Neighbors has 55, and Wan'Dale Robinson is 51. They are tied for the NFL lead right now with 18 third down receptions. So third down is one of your biggest statistics, and the Giants, when it comes to first down success and second down success, they are a struggling team. But when it comes to third down, they've had a pretty decent, way to attack teams and be able to get Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors to be able to convert on third down. To me, this game plan is pretty simple. I wanted to bring up some things that were kind of outside the game plan, but I think this game plan is pretty simple. Establish the run and rely on it all fucking day against the Carolina Panthers. The defense has to get back to playing how they played the couple of weeks before we went up against Washington when we were on our little bit of a run. And you got to find a way to get pressure on the quarterback. Obviously, Bryce Young's a young kid. I expect the Giants to be able to get back to getting pressure on the quarterback, unlike they did last week against the Washington Commanders. And then the way that you will allow the Carolina Panthers to stick around in this game is if you turn the ball over. Just don't turn the ball over. I think the Giants have an incredible chance. I got a few more points to talk about the defense, but how you seeing this matchup panning out?
I mean, this is my type of game. This should be my type of game. This should be whoever runs the ball better will win this game. I feel like Daniel Jones is going to have a hangover. He strikes me as an Oktoberfest sort of guy based upon that picture that I saw on Authentic's timeline today. He definitely looks he's got a giant stein in his hand right now in
or
Germany.
Taking a giant shit.
Yeah, well, so you talked about Carolina's rushing defense, their defense in general. They are allowing the most yards per game rushing, 159.3. They have also allowed the most rushing touchdowns, 15. New York Giants, listen, they're allowing the 5th most rushing yards per game. They're allowing the highest average yards per attempt at 5.2. Okay.
Number 1 in the NFL, the highest?
Highest in the NFL, yep. And you got Chuba coming in, Chuba Hubbard. Shout out to Adam Schefter, who did not check his autocorrect when he tweeted out about his new contract.
Okay, I thought something was wrong with that. What's the real contract?
Well, I wasn't referring to the numbers. I was referring to him calling him China Hubbard instead of Chuba.
Did he
Hubbard.
really get that much money? He got 4 years, like $32 million?
Yeah, I think it was $15 million guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken.
That's puzzling.
Yeah,
Dan Morgan, shout out to Dan Morgan.
Listen, I thought it was. We did not talk about this prior to the show, but it just kind of worked in there a little bit between, us, you talking about the GMs and me bringing up Chuba Hubbard's new deal. Chuba Hubbard has been good, but it is puzzling because you just drafted a guy in Jonathan Brooks who you thought was going to be like the new guy who you just activated off of IR.
Is there a B? What is B?
And they gave Chuba Hubbard money the same week.
I got Chuba's the C. I got a B for you in between. Those jokers paid Miles Sanders that big-ass contract too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Remember that? And dude's not getting no carries. He's ineffective. What are we doing?
We're not doing anything. What are they doing? Is the question.
Yo, they should do like an experiment where they allow a fan to run an NFL franchise for 2 or 3 years because I'm getting sick and tired of people being like, you think you're a GM? You think you know football better than the GMs? Bro, these two general managers are running those two franchises in the ground, man.
We need like a little big league, but for football.
Yes.
That would be awesome. That'd be a good movie, man.
At least a beta something.
Holler at us,
something,
Disney.
bro. You know how they had the Mike Vick experience on? Like, give me something. Like, put me on a roller coaster to be a general manager, please.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. Listen, Chuba Hubbard is 5th in the NFL in rushing yards, 665 yards this year on the ground. Listen, New York Giants, their way out of this is going to be third down defense, 9th best in the league at 33.3. Carolina Panthers are horrible on third down, 4th worst in the NFL at 32.4%.
See, that's an interesting stat that the Giants are 9th on third down. Yeah. But we stink. We're a bad football team.
You're a bad football team. Yes, you are. Listen, and you have the most sacks still. I don't know how. Yeah. I feel like nobody else in the league has gotten sacks in the last couple of weeks because you guys are still at 35 and you're still in first place. Carolina, though, you talked about getting to the quarterback. They have allowed the 4th fewest sacks in the NFL this year. They've only allowed 17 sacks all year. So the Giants do have their work cut out for them as far as getting to the quarterback. Albeit, I'm sure a lot of that was Andy Dalton, veteran, getting rid of the ball.
He only played like 3 games, though.
Was it? I felt like it was more like 5.
He won his first game, and then I think he lost 3 or 4.
4, yeah. It's been 5 games.
Has he played 5 games? That don't sound right.
It doesn't sound right. You guys, there's 9 games. They benched Bryce Young after 3.
This was Bryce Young's what, first start last week?
Back, yeah. So it was 5 games for Andy Dalton.
That don't sound right.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm doing this because I want you guys. I can't. Authentic is my brother. I can't let him continue down this path.
Bro, I don't give a fuck about these New York Giants right now, man.
I know you don't right now. I know you don't right now.
If you really was my brother, you would root for a loss because we need Cam Ward.
I'm getting there. Let me get there. I want you to feel my Jaden Daniels joy too, okay? I'm going Carolina Panthers 19, New York Giants 17.
All right, he wasn't playing.
I'm not playing, man. Listen, anytime I'm just replying with the Cam Ward. I don't even know what the hell it is that he does, but he does this thing. What is he doing? How does he do it?
I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. I never seen it. And I've been looking at every damn game.
He has this like celebration. I don't know what it is, but he does like a
I like this right here. All right. So you go 19-17 Panthers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I like it. So defensively, I'm relying, obviously, on that side of the ball to win this game. But there's some things here that are a little puzzling that I think might be able to either come to an end here or the reason why the New York Giants don't win this game. They've gone 8 straight games now without an interception. Franchise record. Giants have never done that in the history of the whole damn franchise. They date back to 17-23. And that ain't never happened, okay?
17-23.
Sunday versus Washington. That was just the 3rd game in the last 2 seasons where the Giants didn't have a sack or a takeaway. And shout out to Bobby Johnson. Bobby Johnson got that offensive line looking like an offensive line out there. Jaden Daniels got his part, but I like what I'm seeing. John Feliciano, I like that little tweet you sent out, too. That was real good. The crazy impressive part about that was that we blitzed Jaden Daniels 60% of the time last week, and he wasn't sacked one time.
Nope.
Still 0 sacks. Makes no sense. Giants are the only NFL team with 8 players who have at least 2 sacks. So it's been pick your poison. Secondary, it's been the edge rushers, it's been Dexter Lawrence in the middle of that defense, linebackers here or there. Am I really not going to pick the New York Giants to beat the Carolina Panthers? I mean, Bryce Young had 1 touchdown, 1 interception last week, and people were like, played a great game, man.
It's the Dale Jones effect, man.
It really is. They got some weapons over there I like. I like Jatavion Sanders. I like Xavier Legette. I ain't going for it. I'm going to go exact score, 19-17, but give me the New York Giants, man. If they lose, do what you do. You know, this is the first time I picked the New York Giants to win a game since maybe last year.
I think you picked them to beat the Browns.
No, I did not. Don't put that poison on me. I did not pick them to beat the Browns. I did not, bro. Nor the Seahawks, right? Not the Commanders. Who else was it? Not the Eagles.
Nah, week 2, I think you picked the.
That Commanders game. That's the last time I picked them. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe. Shit, maybe. I don't know.
We are must-see TV tonight. We are.
David said the Giants are older than the country. Nah, that's facts. All right, let's keep it pushing, man. Let's go ahead and talk about your Washington Commanders, who are, man, on a streak right now, welcoming the Pittsburgh Steelers and Russell Wilson over here to Northwest Field. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers looking really good since Russell Wilson came in the lineup. We're looking pretty good with Justin Fields in the lineup, too. They're sitting at 6-2 right now. Commanders are sitting at 7-2. Kickoff is Sunday at 1 p.m. Commanders favored by 3 in this one. I got the over-under at 45. Last week, the Commanders beat our New York Giants. The Steelers beat the Giants before that, before they had their bye. And they were just chilling last week, getting ready for these Washington Commanders. Last meeting, the Commanders did beat the Steelers in 2020, snapping a 6-game losing streak to the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. The Pittsburgh Steelers had won 11 straight. Yes, they did. They have not played since that game in 2020. The Steelers have won their past 7 games following their bye week. That's not good news for the Washington Commanders. Pittsburgh is playing at Washington for the first time since 2016, so not a lot of history between these two teams over the past decade here. The Steelers and Commanders are 2 of the 5 teams with more runs than passes this year. So the pass-to-run ratio, that's RTDB at its finest. Steelers are off to their best start since that 2020 season where they had an 11-0 start, and the Commanders snapped that streak. They also just traded for Mike Williams. They got him up from the Jets and whatnot as the Jets brought in Devontae Adams, looking for another weapon on the outside to kind of pair with George Pickens. George Pickens having a pretty good season this year, too, 35 receptions on the year. Commanders are off to their best start through 9 games since 1996. They're looking for their first 9-2 start since you were 3 years old. 2 years old. I forgot you 84, not 83. 2 years old, bro. 1986.
Bro, we never won 11 games when Dan Snyder was here.
Oh, we know 11. I'm talking about 9.
Yeah, I know. I'm just throwing out some more little.
You guys haven't been to the Super Bowl in 300 years. We know. Come on, guys.
It's 1793.
Man, it was before that. The Commanders are 4-0 at home, and they haven't played that great at home. You know, from an offensive standpoint, the red zone numbers dipped 6 of 21 in the red zone at home, and they haven't started 5-0 at home since 1991. You remember what happened in 1991 when y'all started off 5-0?
Super Bowl.
Won the Super Bowl that year. Now, Jaden Daniels is going to be a big part and a big reason why the Commanders win the Super Bowl this year, if they do. See, I had to kind of clean that up a little bit. Rookie of the Week 7 times this year. He just won it this past week. Daniels is looking to be just the 4th rookie since 1950 to win his first 5 home games, which is that's an incredible accomplishment for a veteran to win 5 at home. But to do it as a rookie is even more impressive. The Commanders have the number 3 offense in the league, and Jaden Daniels has a big part in that. He was not sacked last week, but this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a little bit different. They're also getting back Alex Highsmith, who missed 3 games, to pair over there with T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt's kind of having a bit of for him, I'll say a mediocre year at 6.5 sacks through 8 games. I'm sure he's looking to ramp that number up here against the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels and Bobby Johnson. They also made a trade this past week for Preston Smith from the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be a revenge game for him going up against your Commanders. He played for y'all for a little bit as well. And the Steelers against rookie quarterbacks, this is like some Bill Belichick shit here. 50-15 since the merger going up against rookie quarterbacks. Now, we had a lot of great things to say about Saquon Barkley being a running back with 3 straight games over 100 yards. Najee Harris, first running back with 3 consecutive games over 100 yards since 2018. And I think people need to put a little bit of respect on this dude's name because Najee Harris is the kind of guy that's like, he's not like this exciting, explosive, making all these crazy plays type of running back. He's just 3.9 to 4 yards straight ahead. That's his vibe. Tough runner. Love what I'm seeing from him. Since coming into the league in 2021, he's got the 4th most yards of any running back in the entire league, 3,821 yards. I can remember even the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to implement Jaylen Warren a little bit more into their lineup, and you thought maybe Warren might have been the better back of the two, which still might be the case. I think Warren is a really good running back himself. This, to me, is the true RTDB Bowl right here. This is going to be running the rock. Hopefully, it's going to be Najee Harris versus Brian Robinson. We saw what happened last week. You know, was right there doing the warm-ups. Beard says he's playing. I said, you sure?
I'm not making that assumption again anymore.
Sure? He's like,
he's been limited.
He's
been limited all week, so it's not looking good.
Not looking good. So probably going to be Austin Eckler, but Austin Eckler's effective. And then who's the other third back? Jalen McNichols?
Yep. And a little bit more Chris Rodriguez action.
Had a couple of decent runs last week as well. And Jaden Daniels got to put together a good game at home. Daniel Jones did it kind of last week. I think Jaden Daniels can do it. But I do think that Brian Robinson, you know, I still think he's the best player on your offense. I'm not sure if that's going to give the Steelers a really big edge. Russell Wilson in this offense going up against your defense might be the thing that puts the Steelers over the top. I really think this is going to be a 3-point victory at most for one of these teams. What's your thoughts on the matchup?
Well, I'm going to run through this fast as we are on the clock before we get to the roadmap. I just, a couple of things. Washington, only 3 turnovers through 9 games is the fewest since 1933. And that was the first year that they started tracking turnovers. So since they started tracking turnovers, nobody's had fewer turnovers through 9 games than the Washington Commanders. 3 games in a row, the Washington Commanders have held quarterbacks under 100 yards through the first 3 quarters. That's also kind of crazy, too. Last week...
little sketchy, but... I like it.
But when you say it's like, hey now. Okay? You talked about last week with the 60% blitz rate, which I believe was the highest for the Giants all season long. That offensive line allowed 0 sacks, and even the 0 sacks, only 5 pressures. Okay, this is
we some shit, man. Go ahead.
Last little crazy one here. Washington is averaging 42.5 yards per drive. It is the highest ever in NFL history through the first 9 weeks.
That's why you said y'all the most efficient. 42 yards per drive don't make me jump out my seat though.
It's the most ever. Right. Since 1739, authentic, okay?
I get it,
Just
man.
throwing that out there. But look, in this matchup, Pittsburgh has the number 2 scoring defense in the league. They're only allowing 14.9 points per game. They're going up against Washington, 3rd in scoring, 29.2. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. Pittsburgh's rush defense is really good. Number 4 in the league. They're only allowing 90.5 yards per game. Washington is coming into this league. You talked about how we run the ball more than we pass the ball. We have the number 3 rushing offense in the league, 163.9 yards per game. I love every minute of that. It's absolutely a beautiful thing. Now, red zone. We have been struggling. 26 in the league at 51.2%. Pittsburgh red zone defense, number 1 in the NFL, 37.5. Gonna have to find a way to put the ball in the end zone. That's super important. You talked about Najee Harris. That rushing offense is getting better for Pittsburgh. They're number 8 now, 138.1 yards per game. They're going up against Washington, 4th worst rushing defense in the league, 143 yards per game allowed by that Washington rush defense. Now,
look at the stark difference in the team that's 3rd in rushing to the team that's 8th in rushing. You said y'all are 3rd at 161?
63.9.
And then 8th is at 130.
38.1.
I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a few teams that are really like Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington. They're just absolutely crushing on the ground.
Running quarterbacks.
Yeah. Those help. Those do help. Washington has the ninth most sacks in the NFL so far this year with 24. They're going up against Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh hasn't necessarily allowed a lot of sacks. Now, that is because, as Authentic pointed out, they have run the ball more than they have passed the ball. But Pittsburgh does have the 8th highest sack percentage allowed in the NFL. So 8.8% of their dropbacks, they're getting sacked. So that is an opportunity for Washington to put them in, longer third down conversion yardage percentage, which would be very helpful. Talked about Najee. Pittsburgh is tied for the 10th fewest sacks. They only had their 10th fewest sacks in the league. They haven't really been getting to the quarterback much as far as finishing it. The big difference is they do have the 5th most quarterback hits. Those quarterback hits ain't going to cut it against Jaden Daniels. You're going to have to find a way to sack Jaden Daniels. This offensive line has been playing very well. Washington has allowed the 8th fewest sacks in the NFL. They've only allowed 18 all year long. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. We got to get on the road. We are running late. Gretzel and Josie are still inside getting dressed. Authentic and me have been in the car for like 15 minutes waiting.
It's cool, man. It's, fashionably late. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
Fashionably late. I like that.
Be all right, man. All right, let's get off into this roadmap one time.
Yeah, you get on the freeway. What? No, turn right. Get out of the lane. No. Okay, get in position. Just get out the lane.
David said the last time the Commanders were in the Super Bowl.
That's what I was reading, too. I was about to highlight that shit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the officially sponsored by Waze Roadmap to Victory for the Washington Commanders. It starts with RTDB. I am upping the ante. We're going up against one of the best rush defenses in the league. I'm going to need a $175 on the ground.
Did y'all get to the number y'all needed last week?
160.
160 was last week?
Yep.
Y'all got that?
I'm pretty sure we got that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We'll check those. We'll check the box score. We're going to need to stop the run, okay? Najee's got 300 yards in a row. We're going to keep Najee, Russell, Calvin Austin on the end sweep, Jaylen Warren, the whole kit and caboodle, under 100 yards rushing in this game. And speaking of under 100 yards, we've been getting torched by a few wide receiver ones throughout the season, and there's a guy that's getting better now that Russell Wilson has been throwing the deep ball. We're going to hold George Pickens under 100 yards in this game as well. We're going to go back-to-back weeks, back-to-back, Jack. I never thought that I would say this. Back-to-back Jack without sacks. 0 sacks allowed by the Washington Commanders, okay? I'm going to bring the points down a little bit. We're going to score at least 24 points. 75% in the red zone. More touchdowns than field goals.
Like it.
And then we're going to round it out with we're getting into the cul-de-sac. That's part 1. Stopping is part 2. Turning off the car is part 3. That's time of possession, turnovers, and third down. Win them all. I got a final score, too. Last name Simpson, first name Homer.
I mean, at this point, you got 7 wins on the year.
Yeah, I know, but we haven't beaten anybody yet with the winning record. Washington 24.
You beat the Bears. Go ahead, though. Was it 500 flat? Might have been 500 flat.
They were a winning team when we beat them, but we took their soul. They're horrible now. Washington 24, Pittsburgh Steelers 23.
1 point. So we do see this very similar. Yeah, because I see this game like I almost want to go out on a limb here. I mean, you picked the Carolina Panthers to beat my Giants.
But that was doing you a favor.
I'm trying to think about how Pittsburgh played the Giants that Monday night primetime game. They ended up winning by not much, right?
No. The Steelers haven't beaten anybody either, by the way, just so we're all clear here.
I'm going to go Commanders. Yeah, I'm going to go Commanders. I'm going to go Commanders. I think it'll be a little bit higher than what you got. I'm going to go 28-20. Russell Wilson driving late, down by 3. No, it'll be down by 4. 28-24, Commanders.
Roger that, sir. Roger that.
All right. I think we got one more super chat real quick before we get off into this last game.
Big shout out to David dropping bars in the chat. Says, for $1.99, I hope Classic DJ comes and it fumbles 8 times. Listen, I'm telling you, when was the last time Daniel Jones had back-to-back good games?
Earlier, this depends on what you.
Yeah, exactly.
Good, right?
We're not talking about Daniel Jones'
two
truth or
touchdowns.
good games.
He had 2 touchdowns and around 200 yards. Is that? If we're considering last week's game a good game, that's the last time he had 2 good games. It was Cleveland, Seattle. I ain't no hater. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to keep it funky. I ain't no hater. Big shout out to Dave one time, though, in the building, man. Appreciate you rocking out with us, fam.
Okay.
All right, let's get off into this last matchup, which, I wish I was a Baltimore Ravens fan at times.
The purple, though. The purple helmets today.
Oh, these uniforms are fire. Let's get right off into it. The Bengals are traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. All right, man. Bengals, I feel like, did a really good job of salvaging their season. They started out 0-3, I believe it was. They're now sitting at 4-5, and this is a must-win game for them, going up against the Ravens, the divisional rival here. Ravens are sitting at 6-3 after that funny loss the other week to the Browns. They're favored by 6 in this game. The over-under is 52.5. Last meeting, the Ravens won. It was earlier this year, an overtime thriller, 41-38. That was in October of this past season or this season. Last week, the Bengals beat the Raiders. It might have been Joe Burrow's best game of the year, 41-24. Ravens beat the Broncos badly. I told you that game was going to be a blowout. I think that was,
and it started off a little weird too.
It did, and I was like, yeah, Ravens going to handle business. Both these teams scored 41 last week, coincidentally. The Ravens have won the last 3 matchups versus the Bengals. The Bengals got their first home win of the season against the Raiders last week. All 4 of the Bengals wins have all come against teams that are under 500. Sound familiar, Beard?
I feel like that's a lot of teams right now.
I know, right? It's like all the good teams beating up on the bad teams right now. Ravens lead the league in explosive plays right now with 48. That's plays of 20 yards or more. And the Ravens did waive Yannick Ngakoue this past week. I thought that was really interesting. A guy that was like very sought after, but they did say that they're going to try to bring him back if he clears waivers to at least bring him back to the practice squad. But the guy for me who's been really surprising, especially with the way we've been covering parlay, is Zay Flowers.
Yeah,
he's got 100 yards in 4 of his last 5 games. And that's what you need for Lamar Jackson over there and the number 1 offense in the NFL. They're number 1 in rushing, number 2 in scoring, number 3 in passing right now. The Ravens have rushed for at least 100 yards in 42 consecutive games. The NFL record is 43 by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that record is tied by the Baltimore Ravens. They ran 43 consecutive games with 100 yards from 2018 to 2021. So Lamar Jackson is truly trying to break his own record. He had a perfect passer rating last week, and he's done that an NFL record 4 times in his career. Lamar Jackson, man, you talk about stay on that side. This dude, like, after all the scrutiny that he got throughout his career and last year where people said that he shouldn't have won the MVP, he's playing incredible football, 20 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the year. He's the 5th quarterback in NFL history with at least 20 touchdown passes and 2 or few interceptions through 9 games. He's joining Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson, all guys that are headed or in the Hall of Fame. Lamar's rankings this year, I saw this from Mina Kimes, and it just, for all you geeks out there and all you nerds that like them nerdy-ass stats, right? In QBR, he's first. In success rate, he's first. In EPA, he's first. In yards per attempt, he's first. Touchdown interception ratio, he's first. Explosive plays are 20 yards or more, he's first. Bengals traded for Khalil Herbert on Tuesday. I thought it was kind of interesting. Chase Brown just had his career best 120 yards last week against the Raiders. Maybe he heard they was about to bring in another running back and was like, I got to go crazy this week.
I think Zach Moss hit the IR.
Yeah, Zach Moss on the IR. But I mean, like, dude, Khalil Herbert's like, good, serviceable running back. Joe Burrow coming off 27 to 39 for 251 and 5 touchdowns. There's only one other quarterback that's thrown for 5 touchdowns this year, Lamar Jackson. Jamar Chase, first in the NFL, with 7 receiving touchdowns on the year. T. Higgins, the quad injury, it has been definitely keeping him out. He had the hamstring injury earlier on this year. They would hope to get him back. From what I saw last, it's not looking good for T. Higgins. And Trey Hendrickson had 4 sacks last week. 4 sacks in one damn game is kind of crazy, bringing his season total to an NFL best 11 sacks on the year. So now Dexter Lawrence is number 2 in the NFL in sacks. But this is going to be a great game. And I really don't know who's going to win it. The Bengals are in a bit of a situation, I feel like, that's more desperate, more dire need to get the victory. And when you look at the way that they lost their last game, I saw a statistic about them that in the second half of that game, I think it was Joe Burrow scored on 4 consecutive drives. Lamar Jackson scored on 6 consecutive drives. And on that 5th drive, Joe Burrow threw an interception, which really was the difference in that game, which allowed the Ravens to claw back and push it to overtime and win the game. I got to go with the Ravens, man. I know you're a Bengals fan, but you also a Lamar Jackson fan, which is going to make things a little bit tricky for you here. I'm going with the Ravens in this one. Both these teams have been scoring a lot of points. I mean, I think the over-under could be somewhere in the 70s in this game. I'm going to take the Ravens to win. Actually, let me see if you'll convince me a little bit, but I'm taking the Ravens. Let me see what you got.
I have no convincing. No convincing. What's crazy, though, is this is one thing that made me think about, because I like crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm a crazy guy. I like crazy. If Cincinnati does win this game, they're only 1 game behind the Ravens.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to think about. Like, how did the Ravens lose 3 games?
Started out 0-2.
Yeah.
How did the Bengals lose 5? The Bengals lost to the Patriots week 1.
Yeah. They were like 10-point favorites in that game. They lost to some really bad teams, too, the Bengals had. I wouldn't say the Bengals lost. No, they didn't lose to the Panthers.
They lost to y'all. I remember that. They lost to...
We're a good team, though.
Yeah, y'all all right. They lost to the Patriots. They lost to the Commanders. I'm trying to think of them other losses. There's some other fugazi losses in there for sure, though.
Raiders? Did they lose? No, they beat the Raiders. The
Ravens was
lost
one of
to the
them.
Raiders.
Yeah. No, Ravens lost to the Browns.
And the Raiders.
Must have been the 0-2 start then. Oh, no, they did. Their second week. I want to say that was the second week of the season. They did lose to the Raiders. Yeah, Fluke at the end.
Yeah, very Gardner Minshew mustache magic. Listen, this game's going to be awesome. Like, even if it's not high scoring, it's going to be awesome because these two teams play each other really. It's that division matchup, and you got Joe Burrow on one side, Lamar Jackson on the other side. Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase. There's tons of shout out Mike Gesicki. I told you guys he's going to have a huge game last week. He put up 30 fantasy points last week.
He had a huge game.
So I expect I expect both of these tight ends to have big games. No Isaiah Likely for the Baltimore Ravens. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup. It's hard for me. The Baltimore Ravens are getting to this Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs level now. I can't find myself to pick the Ravens to lose. And it sucks because I think it's better for the league when the Bengals are good because they're a fun, exciting team, offensively. But I think Baltimore is just too good. I think they have too much offensive power that on running, passing, it's just incredible. I'm going to go Baltimore Ravens 31, Cincinnati Bengals 29.
31-29. Yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson has just been so efficient this year. Yeah. And then adding Derrick Henry to that offense really helps. Derrick Henry got 11 touchdowns on the year already, which is just like we're halfway through the year.
He's already over 1,000 yards rushing.
Yeah. Saquon's right there, too, at like 970 or something like that. The amount of rushing that has come back into the league in 2024 is a beautiful thing to see for all the OGs out there. Fantasy-wise, real quickly, I'm going to try to get this question out to you quickly. Keaton Mitchell got activated from the IR. What do you think that does for Justice Hill? Do you think that he's a guy you would absolutely put on the bench right now? Because I'm kind of going through that dilemma right now, right before the game.
I was in that situation where I should have started Justice Hill over Dalvin Cook, but we went with Dalvin Cook, and it cost me a win. But Justice Hill is, I don't know, maybe weak right now, this game, I don't know. I would stick with Justice Hill just because there's no telling what Mitchell's workload is going to be like. I wouldn't imagine them rushing him in, especially on a short week. He might get a couple of touches, but I will tell you that a lot of people forgot about how absolutely insanely explosive that guy is.
Yeah, he's a beast. Passing game as well and on the ground. I think that Mark Andrews is going to be the difference in this game. That first matchup, Mark Andrews was not there, and I just think they're a bit of a different offense when Mark Andrews is clicking. They, like you said, man, they have firepower at every position pretty much. I expect Lamar Jackson to show up on primetime in a major way. I'm taking the Ravens as well. I'm going to go 36-27 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens.
Great stuff. Going to be a good game tonight.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to that, man. Beard, any last words before we get him up out of here?
No, just, loving every minute of this.
Every time now, there's a little smirk. No, just,
shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys are awesome. This was actually a really fun show. We got a lot of information packed in that 1 hour and 11 minutes. It's not easy to do, but you guys make it so much fun. All the chat, you guys are absolutely rock stars. It's going to be an interesting weekend. There's some interesting matchups, and I'm excited. The Giants, I want you guys to experience the Jaden Love, the Jaden Love or the Jordan Love, the Buddy Love experience. So hopefully, you guys don't win too many more games, but it's a big game for my Commanders. It's a measuring stick game against a team that has won a lot of games against a lot of teams that haven't won a lot of games. It's so weird. Football is weird. I'm going to put something together, though, maybe for Twitter and see what the record is for the best rushing combined record for like the top 5, top 10 rushing teams in a league. I want to say it's probably going to be eye-opening in comparison to the top 5 to 10 passing teams in the league.
Absolutely. I remember last year about half the playoff teams were top 10 in rushing. So it still stood a little bit. I saw Gregory asking about the Bengals scores on Geedy's before we get up out of here. They lost to the Chiefs by 1 point. They lost to the Commanders 38-33. They beat the Panthers 34-24. They lost to the Ravens 41-38. Beat the Giants 17-7. They beat the Browns 21-14 and lost to the Eagles. That was another one, 37-17. And I actually just got an update from Mike Garafolo. Says that the Giants ruled out Darius Slayton with a concussion and he won't travel. So there's that for you, for all you fantasy nerds out there. I got Darius Slayton on my squad too, and fantasy's been.
It's tough to do overseas with the concussion. That's a tough flight and travel and all that stuff. So.
Shout out Kevin to PRF one time. All right, y'all. Y'all know what it is, man. We got y'all right here, ready for kickoff at 8:15. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. And that's a wrap, Beard. We see y'all maybe on Sunday with the early game. I got a Bleacher Report show at around like 11:30 or something like that. So we'll let y'all know how things go if we try to move up or move back to parlay, or maybe give y'all some early content or something. We're going to make it do what it do. But y'all know what it is. Enjoy y'all Thursday night football. Best of luck in all y'all fantasy leagues, and best of luck to all your NFC East teams. Depends on how you rooting for them. Y'all know what it is. Y'all be good, man. Peace.
Peace.
Spike don't care.